Good evening, everyone. It's Sunday night. It's 8 p.m. It's Basketbros. I'm your substitute moderator, Detroit Dom. You know me from the Gauntlet, the NBA Carousel, the NFL Carousel, all that jazz. I have with me, as usual, from North Carolina, Will Vogel. We have Jacob Christner from the Northeast by way of Atlanta, the Pundit's Pundit,
Midwest.
the Confidential, and our guest for tonight, the owner of the South Florida Tribune, the Motor City Madmouth, Scott Morganroth. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thanks for having us, Tom, Jacob, and Will. Glad to be a part
Yep,
of it.
absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, man, I am parched. Let's get it underway. What's our first topic? Legend of the week, I believe, correct?
Yes.
Do we have banners? We don't have banners. We don't need We don't need no stinking banners.
There we go.
No, it's not Kevin Garnett. We already did Kevin Garnett.
It is. Isn't it Dominique Wilkins?
It is Dominique Wilkins. Will, start us off. What do you got about Dominique Wilkins?
Well, I read some really cool things about Dominique that I didn't know. His dad, he was born in Paris, and his dad was a U.S. airman in the military. Utah originally drafted him and wanted him to play power forward, but he said, I want to play small forward. So they traded him to Atlanta because the cash flow wasn't great for Utah at that point. This one I did know. His brother Gerald did play in the NBA, Gerald Wilkins. And lastly, I didn't know this. His stepson plays for University of Virginia. But that's all I got. Whoever wants to go next can go right ahead.
Well, Dom, where are you at? There you are. You disappeared like the Lions did in the fourth quarter today.
Sorry, trying to stay hydrated. I've been fighting off a cold for like a week and a half, and it just will not go away.
What you drinking?
Water.
Ah, good for you.
So who wants to cover Dominique?
Well, the thing about Dominique is the whole deal with Michael Jordan gave him one little personality. It was the dunker. It gave him that. They focused on that. It was Jordan. See, but the thing is, they were trying. Jordan versus Dominique really would have been a great rivalry. Truthfully, it was in the regular season. In the playoffs, the Bulls got it. So there was that. But the biggest issue with Dominique is the fact, because of all that dunking and because of the human highlight film, he could shoot. They didn't realize that. He could shoot. His main thing was the fact he was pure scorer. He had defense. He had people who would rebound, and he was scorer, but he did not do it all. See, he did not do it all the way a lot of players would. The legends they would. But either way, it was his main thing was just the fact that he was in the wrong place, wrong time with a lot of teams as far as getting anywhere. Like when he went to the Celtics. Missed Bird by 18 months.
Yep.
So missed Bird by 18 months. So that could have been the farthest he ever went through the playoffs. So it's one of those deals. Then he went to the Clippers. It's definitely wrong place, wrong time. So one of those deals where Dominique's one of those that probably, with better, maybe, I don't know if he's a better agent, better choices, better anything, could have had a better career, or even better coaches. He could have had himself a better career, but still he was amazing. He still had some amazing stats, and he did some amazing things. And what about you, Scott? What do you think? What do you think of Dominique?
Oh, I think he was a highlight reel. I really do. I enjoyed watching him play. What's neat is the University of Georgia product, I believe, if I remember right.
Yep.
So we got to play in the Atlanta area. So
still not 3, though. I haven't brought up Harden yet.
Well, all right. But you asked me what I think. And to be honest with you, I think he was an entertaining player to watch, at a time when the NBA really needed that kind of a player. His stats are what they are. He's in I believe he's in the Hall of Fame. So there's obviously a reason why. And he's in the Hall of Fame when he played against extremely great competition, too.
Yeah.
All this watered down talent that you have in the NBA. Sorry, guys. I enjoyed the NBA when it was good and physical and rugged and rivals, An elbow really meant an elbow. Okay. A head injury meant a head injury where, you went way downtown, bang when you hit the floor. Okay. Because you weren't
Yeah.
supposed to be in the paint. Okay.
yeah,
Well,
So, Dikembe Mutombo used to say, "You don't dunk on me." Well,
yeah.
guess what, guys? When you go on the floor and you get hit. Now all of a sudden we got the NBA patty cake, Baker's man. How far can you shoot? The way we can. I mean, give me a
Hey,
break.
I like that fairy tale, I'll tell you. But no, the 88, I'll tell you this. It ended up being that the 88 the Eastern Conference semifinal,
Yeah.
that really, you would have thought, because that was a younger team other than maybe Tree Rollins, but you would have thought you would have absolutely thought that would have been the beginning of them, because they got to 7 games, and the last 3 games were all 2 points.
Right.
It was all 2 point within 2 points. All 3 of them were, and it was like you would think that would have led to something bigger, but then no, there's no Fratello anymore. Then they get guys like Bob Weiss. Then they get and all that stuff. They get their little 43 and 39s to get their butt kicked. It never was the same after 88.
Right. That's true.
So those were the issues, and it's like, just imagine what happens if they take what happens if they take the 7th game? All 3 of them could be 2 points. What if they take Game 7?
Well, but you're talking a hypothetical. What happens if? Okay.
Well, we do that, but yeah.
Oh no, but I'm new to this. We do that business here, okay?
Yeah.
And when I go ahead and talk about the ifs, I can give you the ands and I can give you the buts, but the bottom line is didn't win. So
that's our bread and butter, sir.
Huh?
No, but
That's our bread and butter, sir. We're talking about basketball games that got played 20 years ago and back. We're all about what ifs and ands and buts.
I think
I
about
agree.
that. I think about that, and it was like that was the 88, and it's like that would be Atlanta versus Detroit.
Right.
That would have been Atlanta versus Detroit. I mean, depending on matchups and everything, that might have been a bit interesting.
I remember that time because I was covering the Bad Boys at the time. So let's face the reality. Back in the 80s, late 80s, the Pistons were a tough matchup for everybody. You had Chuck Daly, a guy that I work with, okay, who, how he used to go ahead and handle the minutes. If he didn't practice hard enough, he would manipulate the minutes. And you got a bunch of hungry individuals that they had the Allen Iverson practice. What do we need to practice? Well, in Chuck Daly's eyes, you need to practice or you're going to get the minutes. So, and I happen to work with Chuck, so I know exactly the temperament of that team. And don't be wrong. I mean, when you talk about hypotheticals, yes, Darko Milicic won a championship and Carmelo Anthony didn't. Okay, so what if Carmelo Anthony would have been with the Pistons? How many more would they have won? But I like Dominique Wilkins. I always have.
Yeah.
And you know what, Jacob, you're right. He was just unfortunately in the wrong place at the wrong time in a lot of places, but he got his right place over in Springfield, and that's really what it's all about. And he got to play in Georgia, where he's very familiar with, like Pete Maravich did many years ago when he got to play with the New Orleans Jazz on LSU. So, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Well, see, those years with the Hawks and everything, it's like he could have the Kevin Willis's, you could have the Tree Rollins, who was a complete defensive guy. And it's like, here's the thing, a Tree Rollins wouldn't last in the NBA anymore. Not at all. A Tree Rollins lasted 18 years with like 4 points a game. But he was Mr. Defense and Mr. Rebound. And you could do that to get that with your shooter. You could do that to get with your shooters. You can't do it anymore. A Tree Rollins, they would be asking him to shoot 23 feet now.
Very true.
Well, if you're going to go that far, I'll tell you right now, I remember covering the Bad Boys, how many times the Pistons, when it had stockpiled 7-footers, when you had Chuck Nevitt and all these extra guys, you could get another 6 to 12 fouls just to get other people in trouble. So, I mean, even Andre Drummond is really out of his league in terms of the eras. I think he'd have been more suited for the other era when his defense and rebounding mattered a lot more. And he reminds me a little bit of Dennis Rodman, and I've had a chance to work with Dennis before. But you're right, Jacob. Okay, the emergence of the 3-point play, you ruin good centers that are reboundaholics is really what they are, and they play defense. And when you take away a defensive guy, a rebounder on the lineup, you got yourself a lot of problems. Instead of the old today's NBA will just throw it as far as you can and hope you get 2 or 3 points. You know, for all you need to take a nap on this show here, why don't we just watch today's NBA? That'll help you do it. Then you won't need Ambien, you won't need Trazodone, you won't need Xanadine or any other sleeping pills. Just watch the NBA. And if that ain't good enough, let's just watch soccer, and that'll kill us all.
Hey, well, we don't bash soccer around here, sir.
Sorry, doesn't matter. I do, but
Dom,
that's okay.
go ahead. Dom, go ahead. What do you think about
what was I going to say about Nick? I as well did not know until today that he was born in France. Government name Jacques Dominique Wilkins. Let me do some of the rundown like Jay normally does. Hall of Famer, obviously. 9-time All-Star. 7-time All-NBA. 82, 83 All-Rookies on the 75th anniversary team. He's a scoring champ. And I'm sure more than one of you guys probably alluded to it, but, 25 points a game without a real NBA jump shot. Like, we're talking about, or we were just talking about other guys that wouldn't survive in this era. Would Dominique without that 3-ball? Because it's funny when Jacob's buddy Zion Williamson came into the league about 10 games into the season, his rookie year, he said, "I don't want to be another human highlight reel." And I'm sitting there thinking, listen here, you fat pud. You've got a long way to go before you're anywhere sniffing the territory of Dominique Wilkins. But shout out to you, Zion Williamson. I hope you stay healthy this year.
So, no, he won't. He won't.
I don't think so either, personally.
Should we go to our next topic, Dom?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Our next topic is best and worst trades in NBA history. Who wants to lead off? Scott?
Yeah, actually, I've got one for you. I loved it when Dick Vitale went ahead and traded for Bob McAdoo. Oh, how did that work? That was a one-way ticket out of the NBA and over to ESPN. And I think Cedric Maxwell was part of the return. And I think Kevin McHale was one of the picks that they picked up. So Bob McAdoo turned out to be Bob McAdoo, and the birth of ESPN and Dick Vitale took place. I definitely got to put that at the top of my list.
Well, we've got to remember with McAdoo also, he went to Boston for about 5 minutes and hated it there too.
That's true. Everywhere he went, though, he was losing. He used to bring teams down, but from what I remember,
he was doing 30. Well, he was doing 31 points a game. That kind of stuff.
I think the only one he couldn't bring down, didn't he win a championship with the Lakers, though?
2 of them, I believe.
Right. He couldn't screw that up, even though he screwed everything else up. But that's
it's hard to screw up when you're 17 minutes a game.
Exactly. That's my point. So, so if anybody ever wonders what the demise of Dick Vitale was in the NBA, I'll give you 2 words: Bob McAdoo.
Yeah. I can give you the worst trade: Ainge for Klein and Pinckney.
I've got one almost as worse as that, probably not as worse. Olden Polonais for Scottie
Polonais.
Polonais for Scottie Pippen.
Almost. Here's an almost worst trade ever.
You just took my best one, just coin flipped.
Hey, yeah, I got to work. Here's one that might have been almost worse. They keep talking about it the last week or so. Possibility of Scottie Pippen for Sean Kemp. That would have been terrible.
Yeah.
This was a bad trade for the Hornets, and I'm a Hornets fan. Kobe for Vlade.
Yeah, that would definitely get up there. But you know what, though, Will? It may have been the worst, but Kobe Bryant had made his decision. He wasn't going to play in Charlotte, so they had to make the best.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that the trade on the surface doesn't look very good.
There's an asterisk. There's a small asterisk.
All right, but that's where the asterisk is. Kobe Bryant, to me, refused to play there. And as a result, if you're going to make a trade like that, it'd be like John Elway say, "I'm not playing for the Baltimore Colts." Okay, and I remember that. And then what he ended up thinking that they ended up getting the return for. I believe Mark Herman was the guy that they ended up getting in return. So, and how did that work out for Denver? In fact, I'll even take it a step further. The first Super Bowl I covered, and I've covered 4 in person, Super Bowl 33, when Elway won the MVP, I asked John that question. He gave me the biggest smile, wide and Gomer Pyle, let me tell you. And he was glad somebody bothered to ask him that question.
What was you guys can clear me up. What was his reason he didn't want to play in Charlotte?
I have no idea. I actually have no idea, to be honest.
I mean, That's
Yeah,
I would think he'd want to, because that's one of the loudest. Those are some of the loudest. Even you know what I mean? Yes, easy Ed McCauley for Bill Russell. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah,
I would
no.
guess, what
There were-
if I had to guess?
Thank you,
I don't know.
commenter, for taking mine.
I
Yeah,
don't
because
know.
last I knew, Bill Russell won 11 rings, and the Hawks haven't been to the finals since 1961.
So
Yeah.
if
Now,
I had
keep
to
in mind,
guess,
McCauley and Cliff Hagan did each make 6 All-Star teams, but All-Star teams, 11 rings,
yeah, exactly.
doesn't really match up. Plus, that trade was also racially motivated, is what I read. There was some.
Well,
some
you're going from one racist city to the other, though. So it was like,
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say
Okay,
Boston.
what about best trades, guys? Someone started off.
Well, you already took mine. It was just the flip side. The Bulls got Scottie Pippen for Olden Polynice and a couple picks. What do you got, Will?
Yeah, that was probably my best trade. I would have to stick with that.
Also, the Hawks getting Dominique for some guys named John Drew and Freeman Williams. I'm not going to lie.
you know, Hall of Famers completely.
I was going to say, never heard of either one of those guys. Didn't even
Yeah,
bother to
they
look at
all
their
were.
stats because I was like, if I've never heard of these guys, I looked at a few lists.
Kevin McHale, you know, from the Kevin McHale for the draft picks from the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
There was 2 or 3 different times that they were going to. I mean, they got the draft picks for the Knicks to get Kevin McHale in the first place, but there was 2 or 3 different times when they were going to try to trade McHale to the Knicks, and it never went through. So it was kind of a weird deal.
What about you, Scott?
You know, I got to tell you, I like it when the Detroit Pistons acquired Rasheed Wallace.
That was an excellent trade. That was the far and away the best thing that Joe Dumars ever did. For years since then, when I've been trying to get one of my teams to pull off a ridiculous trade, I say, someone go get that Joe Dumars trade talisman and just wave it in front of that GM. Then the guy wakes up with no pants and no Rasheed Wallace.
Yeah, Rasheed Wallace, you know what? Larry Brown had the right temperament to handle him. First of all, they're both car heels in the first place, so that helped. So I can remember Rasheed Wallace blowing a gasket every 5 seconds. Larry Brown would stand there and argue with the official, don't worry, Rasheed, I've got your back. And, you know, you had his back 9 million times. He's getting into trouble. Larry will be there. Daddy O'Larry will be there. And you know what? Rasheed Wallace like, hey, somebody's going to stand up for me and change, and I'll still go after him. So, yeah, no, I remember, won him a championship. Anytime you make a trade, right, and it wins you a title, I would like to think that turns out to be pretty good. And for a lot of, you know, so, I mean, you can see a lot of those in any sport. But to me, for the Darko Milicic draft choice being awful, at least Joe Dumars acquires it, you know, Rasheed Wallace to win that title. And, you know, I believe that they ended up going to the finals 2 years in a row, winning one. If I remember.
Well, there was also that trade to get Moses Malone to the Sixers.
You know what?
Great one too.
You know what was also a really good trade? I forgot who all the pieces were, but when the Lakers got Pau Gasol.
Yeah, I saw that one earlier. It was like the rights to Mark Gasol and a bunch of bums. One of them being Javaris Crittenden.
And
how's life, Javaris Crittenden?
Mark Gasol isn't bad. He's just not his brother.
Javaris Crittenden, we call him Pistol Whip here.
I can only imagine.
So, Dom, what do we have? We are
good
flying
question.
by this show.
Pretty
good though.
What was next? What if? Was what if our next segment?
I think so.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know I had to moderate till 5 minutes before the show started.
We got either what if or players that look weird. Okay, we'll do
Okay, our weekly what if.
Yeah.
What if Scottie Pippen leads Bulls, made the finals? Who would win finals or Rockets Bulls? Not typed out the best. Basically, I think it's more of a could he rather than what if.
Who wants to start?
Go ahead, Will.
I'll go real quick. I don't think the Bulls have enough to beat the Rockets because you're going against Hakeem and Kenny Smith and a bunch of other good role players. It's just too much for Scotty. So I got the Rockets still winning that finals, plain and simple.
Well, you got to realize I'd have the Rockets winning one of the 2 NBA finals against the Bulls if they faced twice in the first place.
Right.
Because the Rockets smoked through the Bulls for 5 straight games in the regular season.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they smoked through them. So I had them doing it anyway. I think Jordan would have won one of two, but I don't think he would have won both.
No, because Hakeem was
yeah,
motivated like crazy.
And I'm just saying, you got to realize the lower seed Rockets just smoked right through Orlando.
Yes.
And it's like, no, the biggest thing we have to understand about all of this is Scottie Pippen by himself. He showed from that Tony Kukoc deal, the whole Tony Kukoc deal, he wasn't a leader.
Right.
He was never a leader. It's like he wanted the ball, but if he did not like being a decoy, he didn't like anything. He wanted it all to himself, which basically he's the CM Punk. He's the CM Punk of that time. If you don't give him the ball, he's not going to do anything. And
nice CM Punk reference. I like it.
Yeah, and it's just that's just what the truth was. And it's like that would have been a sweep. That would have been a sweep on the Bulls. The Rockets would have.
Oh, clearly a sweep.
Yeah, Scottie Pippen was definitely a great Robin, but he was never going to put on the Batman suit.
Great analogy, Dom. I really like that. Yeah,
well,
you know what?
Know who else? I'm just saying this. I apologize. You want to know who else? Lance Briggs for the Bears. Lance Briggs for the Bears, wonderful Robin. But
to Brian Urlacher.
He led to Brian Urlacher, but he led two of the absolute worst defenses in the history of the game.
Mm-hmm.
He was the leader of those. So there are ones that just can't lead.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to agree with each and every one. Yeah, I don't think there's any question the Rockets would have won it. I love Hakeem Olajuwon. I think he's one of the most complete centers to ever play the game of basketball. I do. And, you add Clyde Drexler to it. That doesn't hurt matters any either, okay? Maybe they could make free throws together at 5 Slamma Jamma, but winning titles in the NBA isn't the worst consolation prize. So, but, Dom, I really like the Batman and Robin analogy. I think I've never really cared for Scottie Pippen. I never even thought he belonged, in the top 50 players of all time. I
Me
think.
either.
I believe.
Jacob. Let me finish.
I believe he belongs there just because the flow of the game that he started a real flow of the game. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Yeah. There was a real flow that he had when he was on the court. He moved so easily. So easily, and it's like, and he was a point forward. He was a good point forward that could hold the ball up. So it's like he belongs there, but he could not be a leader.
Yeah, but I still don't believe it belongs in my top 50.
Right? Great.
All these lists that you have in the NBA top 50 to 100. Hello, there's a lot of other players that were a whole lot better than this guy before to begin with. I mean, look at all the Celtic players, all the Bucks players, Knicks players when the Knicks were relevant. Okay, and haven't been in a while. So I don't believe me personally, I wouldn't even put Scottie Pippen in my top 75. Maybe it's a Detroit guy coming out of me. I just think that, like Tom said, he's more of a Robin than he is a Batman. Because he had an opportunity to lead the Bulls when Jordan left. And what do you think ends up happening? No, I'm going to sit on the bench. The moment's too big for me. And that's where you take away the top 50. In fact, I'll even take it a step further. I don't even think he belonged on the dream team either. All because he was Jordan's right-hand man. So just because you're on Jordan's right-hand man means you get to be on a dream team and you freeze out Isaiah Thomas. Sorry, guys, that doesn't fly with me. I'm not going there. But to answer your initial question, I'll go Rockets all the way. Not even a thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's Rockets either in a sweep. Maybe the Bulls get one. But, I mean, shows what my immature basketball brain knew back then, because that was the one time that my confidence in Shaquille O'Neal was supremely high. Like, I mean, after 2 games, I understood what was going on. I was like, wow, this is going to be a great series. That was my first, real exposure to Hakeem Olajuwon. I didn't realize how much better he was than Shaq.
Shaq was, the biggest thing about Shaq was he was so new to that NBA. So new to the NBA. I'll tell you this. I remember one game that was Orlando versus New York, and it looked like Orlando of the current year, I think it was 95, versus the Knicks of 1991. It literally looked like different game. It's like they're 6'7". There is 6'7". Let's see, Anthony Hardaway. there is 6'7" Anthony Hardaway flying around and just blowing over. I mean, and dunking over Patrick Ewing. All these guys. There's like three guys. There's three big boys going down on fast breaks. And I mean, and meanwhile, there's Patrick Ewing limping. It just looked it, and it's like Orlando looked different. Shaq looked different. He was going up on fast breaks. He was dribbling. It was completely different. But in the end, Hakeem was just better. People didn't see it coming. People didn't see it coming. Is why you were saying, "Oh, this is great." But it's like it was another world, and you got to remember, Shaq got his when he finally got Kobe.
Yep.
Was it that series or the following NBA Finals that got preempted by the low speed car chase?
Oh, I thought wasn't it the Rockets and the Knicks?
It was. So it was the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, OJ Simpson. I guess I might preempt the Rockets and the Knicks for OJ. Why not?
You cannot preempt a title game in a major professional sport for a low speed car chase.
Oh, you can't. Well, let me tell you something. Once upon
When
a
it's
time,
OJ.
I know that this is an NBA show, but I'm old enough to realize before Magic Johnson and Larry Bird came on that the NBA was in tape delay before.
I know, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, playing 11:30 at night.
Well, I enjoyed it because I was working in a restaurant as a salad maker at the time, so I used to watch the NBA at 11:30. It worked out.
I was going to say, when you got out of work, you could still watch a game.
Oh, it was unbelievable. Yeah. And then Magic and Bird messed it up, and thank God. And I'm just glad that Magic won the NCAA championship at Michigan State. And Bird, who I would subsequently meet later on, covering the Pistons.
Ooh, I want to hear this story. Jacob loves Larry Bird.
Well, yeah. No,
I've already told him all that thing. You go right ahead.
All right, well, I got to give it to Will. I guess he has his arms around him, so he's ready to hear the story. I'm covering the Pistons, and I get the visitors' locker room, so I get Larry Bird as the coach of the Pacers. So I'm waiting for the beat writers to do their thing. So then, after they were done, I said, Coach Bird, can I ask you a question? This isn't a basketball-related question to the game, but I'm just curious to get some information. I addressed him by Coach Bird, so he's already gained his respect by acknowledging him the right way. And so, listen, I realized that you were probably not one of the better athletes out there, okay? Meaning you can't jump, you can't do all that stuff. I was trying to be polite about it. So I asked him, what made you better than a lot of your players? And he was very nice about it. He said, I think 3 steps ahead of my opponent is what I did, is what he told me. I said, this is a life lesson that he taught me as an individual, not so much a basketball lesson. As long as you outthink your opponent and you're thinking 3 steps ahead in life, you're going to win every darn battle that there is. And I said, well, thank you very much, Coach Bird. I appreciate you telling me that. I've always been a big admirer of your game anyways. And, as a person, and I just thank you very much here, for giving me that. No problem. He shook my hand and we had a nice talk and it was boom. And now I learned something many years ago that has really helped me in life, where now the way I approach my business, whatever I end up doing, I think 3 steps ahead. You can ask a person a tough question as long as you do it in a very respectful, dignified way, and you're not offensive. And I've done that in 42 years of journalism I have. And you know what? As long as you're not broigus about it, you'll be fine. And Larry Bird to me is a guy that I have so much respect. And he turned out to be a pretty good NBA coach. You want to talk about, for the short time he was there, great players can't make coaches. A lot of them don't, but that one did because he placed his ego aside and made sure he was talking to his players and talking above his players and surround himself with a good staff. And as long as you're one of, instead of trying to feel like you're superior, you got at least a chance. It's a shame that where I work in South Florida, and I work with Don Mattingly all the time, and he's not in a better situation because I know he's a heck of a manager if you give him talent. I'm not trying to get off subject a little bit. I'm just trying to make a point that hopefully our audience will understand and learn that, if you're a great person and you approach them the right way, you're going to win as long as you have integrity and dignity behind it. And that's what I love about Larry Bird and the lessons he taught me. And you can rest assured it's an individual's job to make everybody around them better. Otherwise, you're no good anyways. So I hope Will, that you understand that you gained a different perspective of Larry Bird. But I
love Larry Bird. I love Larry Bird.
Right. And no, the biggest thing about that though was what we just got ourselves. We've had a couple of different couple of different times, like changes in the game over the years and stuff like that. I got to remember, Bird and Magic changed the game. And then once they were gone, it was changed from this, all of a sudden you have centers. I would say it was more even David Robinson than Shaq before that. You know what I'm saying? It's like when they could run off the floor and do all that kind of stuff, lead fast breaks, when they could do all different things other than just being under the basket. So little things like that. It was so changed. I think that change went until that change went all the way until Steph Curry.
Well, it's amazing how you talk about David Robinson. I'm covering the Detroit Pistons at the Boston Garden. I believe it was back in 88 or 89, and I ended up tearing my ankle in a skiing accident on Magic Mountain. If you believe that, the same day Billy Martin was killed is when I tore my ankle up. My God. But anyways, I go to the Boston Garden to see the Pistons and the Celtics, okay? And then I ended up staying for an extra game because Celtics PR guy, his name was Jeffrey Twist, one of the nicest PR guys you'll ever meet, credentialed me for the Celtics and the San Antonio Spurs. And I saw David Robinson play for the first time. And if anybody that's ever seen a basketball game in Boston realizes those Celtic fans are intelligent fans, they were so impressed with Robinson and they were saying it. You can hear a lot of things at the Boston Garden with the rumblings in the media, and the fans are, wow, Robinson's going to be good, and he's going to be good for a long time. And how did it turn out? The guy's in the Hall of Fame and is a championship caliber player. So I agree, Jacob, everything you're saying about Robinson. We all talk about the evolution and the changes to the basketball over the years where you have the dominant center versus a guy that can do a lot more versus to what you have now. But David Robinson, in my opinion, could play in any era and playing it extremely well.
Right.
David Robinson, who going into the final game of a season needed to score 71 points to win the scoring title. And then he did it.
Right.
But we're at about the halfway point of the show, a little bit past. Jacob, tell them about our sponsor, Score No Score.
Score No Score. What do you say? What do we say about that? It's like it is basically gambling for dummies.
Sports gambling for dummies.
Absolutely. And it's like, so what do you like? Do you think someone's going to score in the first quarter? Are they going to be scoring? If it's football, are they going to be scoring in the first inning? Who will hit a home run? Any of that kind of stuff. That is what Score No Score is. It makes things a little easier. You go by, they'll get you tokens to match, and you go all the way through. Hey, if you're really, really good, you don't have to use your own money. But if you're not very good, well, you might have to do that. But it makes things a little easier. It goes down the line. So it goes down the line, and it's fun. It's kind of fun. It's something you could probably see at one of those bar games, on the little tabletop. It's one of those that you can see on there, and it's real fun. And that's what Score No Score is. And how do you usually do on it, Dom?
I haven't lost any of my own. Well, I think I'm down like $7 or $8 of my own money, but they usually match it. I won a bunch of money that wasn't really mine to start with, so then I just, I'm on house money. It's fun. I'm thinking somewhere in the near future here. I haven't read anything about it real recently, but I think they're adding the NBA. Right now, It's just NFL and MLB, but Score No Score available on the Apple App Store and Google Play for you poor Android users.
So, Dom, what's our next topic?
Next topic is, okay, your team guy who was to be good, then is not so hot, and guy who was supposed to be, okay, so basically, it's a guy that your team drafted or acquired, and you thought he was going to be great, and he wasn't, and vice versa. You got a guy who you thought was a bum, and he ended up being great. I'll start. I'm going to start with guy who we thought was a bum. I won't say he was a bum because I'm not going to lie. When we acquired him in a throw-in trade, we traded Grant Hill for Chucky Atkins and Ben Wallace. I was like, who's Ben Wallace? Never heard of him. He was a throw-in. He ended up being pretty good, the centerpiece, a defensive centerpiece, mind you. Like, tell me one team you can think of in NBA history where the best player, and no, it wasn't, and we love you, Chauncey Billups. We love you, Rasheed Wallace. We love you, Rip Hamilton. Ben Wallace was the best player on that team. I've never seen anyone in NBA history that could affect the outcome so greatly by not scoring. And it wasn't even the block shots. Although he was a 3 or 4-time NBA block leader, they always talked about, if you ever watched Pistons games back then, Scott, I'm sure you saw a bunch, they would talk about altering shots. Guys would go into the lane and they're like, oh, there's Ben. I guess I better pass. And then someone misses a jump shot. To me, it's just as good as a block shot because you stop the team from scoring points. So that's my guy for supposed to be a bum, but was amazing. The other half of this coin, good Lord. I mean, there's many.
Croatian dude.
There's so many, but I'm going to pick, and although it wasn't his fault, I'm going to pick Stanley Johnson. I was very excited about Stanley Johnson when we drafted him. Granted, he was young. He was a little bit raw. He was still a teenager. But after seeing him play about 5 games and watching his college highlights, I was like, oh, my God, that's Ron Artest. Tough defender. He could do pretty much everything. He could score in the post. He had a little bit of a jump shot. Unfortunately, owner, the head coach and the general manager at the time was one Stan Van Gundy. So Stan Van Gundy had the brilliant Reed, not brilliant at all idea of trying to turn Stanley Johnson into a 3-and-D pick and pop kind of guy. And that was not the way to go. It basically, I think Stanley's still hanging around in the league, which shout out to him for doing so. But Stan Van Gundy did everything he could to ruin that man because he tried to make him something that he wasn't. Even his rookie year, before it became painfully obvious that Van Gundy was going to ruin him, that was either the last or second to last time we were in the playoffs. We still got swept by Miami, but Stanley Johnson was playing very tough, and I mean very tough D on LeBron James. Like, the moment was not too big for him. He was out there talking smack and D'ing LeBron up tough. We still got swept, but I was still real excited about Why do I keep saying Stan Van Gundy? About Stanley Johnson.
Hey, I'm excited about
Stan Van Gundy. If you're listening, Stan Van Gundy, I hate you.
Hey,
go ahead, Will.
Stan Van Gundy, what a sexy man.
So I'll go real quick. The guy who was I'll go with a guy who I didn't think he was a bust per se. I thought his size was going to play a huge disadvantage, but then turned out good, was Kemba Walker. He is I'm a Hornets fan. He is the all-time leading point scorer. He leads us in a lot of categories. No, again, I'm not saying he's a bum. I thought his size was going to hurt him because he is a rather small guard. And he carried us to the playoffs. And I felt bad, even though we did have Al Jefferson, who helped him quite a bit. I felt bad for the dude. And lately, he's been injury prone. He was on the Celtics. He was on the Knicks. He was on OKC. Like, the guy played bigger than he was a little bit. Because he was like 6 foot. He was short. Played good.
Wait, who are you even talking about? At first, I thought you were talking about Baron Davis. Oh, Kemba. Okay.
And he gave a lot of heart. The guy who was good, but then a bust. And we've talked about him a bunch on this show. And just like Dom, we have a lot. He was a good college player, bust in the NBA. We've talked about him before. Crybaby himself, Mr. Hippie himself, Mr. Adam Morrison. I thought he was going to be a decent, not great, thought it was going to be a decent 3-point option for a good upcoming Charlotte team that was young and thought he was going to be maybe eventually a future centerpiece, maybe put up 10 to 15 points a game, make a few threes a game, but that guy fizzled out like crazy. And guess who we drafted instead of
Kelly Tripucka. Like Tom Heinsohn would call him. Kelly Tripucka.
Former Pistons legend, Kelly Tripucka. Jacob, you're shaking your head like you knew Adam Morrison was a bust.
Oh, yeah, I did.
That's all I got. John, go ahead with Jacob, go ahead.
Well, Adam Morrison, I knew he lost me the minute he cried when the game was
exactly
over.
That's why I said
he lost me at that. He lost me at hello. But anyway, the biggest thing I would say, and I will get this right now, I'll give 2 bums. I literally I thought for one thing right off the spot, Michael Smith was a stupid draft pick. Stupid. Especially when Sean Kemp was around, and they picked Michael Smith over him. I thought Michael Smith was a tremendous idea for 12 minutes off the bench. It got a nice stop and pop. They used him for like Brooks Thompson in Orlando. Little stop and pop guy, 8 minutes a game, 12 minutes a game, whatever. That would have been nice. That would have been nice for my. The problem is you don't do that for the number 6 draft pick or number 12 draft picks. You don't do that when Sean Kemp's around. So, and then I really, really believed. I was young, so I thought I liked Joe Klein because usually when you get a guy that size, you look at a guy and he's like doing rebounding, he's butting everybody out of the way and hitting 2-foot shots, but he can hit from 16. So I thought, oh, this would be really nice. The problem was he didn't have any stamina. And then it was absolutely all those times. He in the first year was all right because Bird actually wasn't on the court; he was injured. You know, but then when that came back and when that came around and stuff like that, when that piece came back, the leader came back, it was not the same. It was not the same anymore for him, and he was out of position a lot. He wasn't the same a lot. I thought he was. I completely. And the thing was, I didn't even think about how much of a piece Danny Ainge was, just because he got all the ball. So I didn't know he was that big and stuff like that. He went to 6 finals.
I was going to say, that is 1998 NBA champion Joe Klein. Put some respect on that man's name. I was just looking at his basketball reference. I was like, he won a ring? With who? And I scrolled, and I scrolled, and I scrolled, and I'm like, oh, when he was 47.
Jacob, who's your guy who was and then
who I thought was, I'll tell you 100%, Bill Walton ended up being tremendous for the 86 team. Bill Walton. It's like, it was like, I mean, those pick and rolls, and you know what I'm talking about, Scott. Those pick and rolls were a beauty. I mean, they were impossible to stop. And it's like, I really believe they'd been so much better off if he would have stayed healthy in 87. And I bet they would have had with Reggie Lewis around. And if he would have stayed healthy for those 15 minutes and everything, they might have gotten 1 or 2 more rings. You know? So what do you think about that, Scott?
Well, you know what? I'm going to throw a few names at you guys. All right, you ready? Okay. I'm going to really take you back in a very big time machine. Remember I brought up Dick Vitale, right? I remember when the Detroit Pistons drafted a guy by the name of Roy Hamilton out of UCLA in 1979. And that did not work out for him. And you know, this guy was, to me, a point guard with a lot of expectations and simply was a bust. He only played for the Pistons, let's see, from 79 to 80, and he only played with the Blazers for 1980. Now, I'm going to also throw another name at you. You want to talk about a guy that was an NBA bust with Phoenix? The Pistons tried to resuscitate him. William Bedford didn't work out very good. So, there's a name.
That was cocaine, though, wasn't it? That was cocaine.
William Bedford's on the all-cocaine team.
Well, that's true, but then the Pistons picked him up. They also got James Edwards, too, so maybe they did the Suns a favor by taking Bedford off their hands because they won a title with Edwards. But now I'm going to throw the biggest kicker at you, remember? Okay, when they drafted Gregory Kelser after that championship run, and Gregory wasn't bad. He's been with the organization as a broadcaster for a long time. But they flipped him for Vinnie Johnson. And how did that turn out?
The microwave.
Yep.
Well, I'm throwing a lot of these examples. Doesn't hurt the Doms on the show. We could probably relate this stuff anyway. Now, nobody can relate to Roy Hamilton. Nobody would relate to William Bedford. But the Kelser-Johnson trade turned out well because Johnson, we know, what an intricate part. I think I read something recently that he's made like $4 or $5 million in basketball. And then his after basketball life with Piston Automotive has got him making a boatload of money there. And he's a lot wealthier after the game of basketball anyway. So I'm throwing those at you and then let you guys kind of, you know, talk amongst yourselves, you know, about with the best of the group. But they were all different in their own way. But Roy Hamilton, everybody thought the Pistons going to have a great draft. You had Hamilton and Kelser in that draft, and it turned out to work out.
Hey, Scott, what about the guy who was and then blossomed?
What's that?
Well, who you thought was blah? Who do you think was going to be blah and then blossomed?
Let me think on that one. Bland that blossomed, but the Pistons, I think the guy that would really make sense to me at the beginning was Bill Laimbeer because you didn't know what you were getting. But then as time goes on and he fit into that situation, being a leader, a rebounder, nobody knew what you were getting with Bill Laimbeer. He was cast aside from Cleveland, right? And all of a sudden, the Pistons took him on, and how did that turn out? Bad boys, championship.
Trader Jack targeted him specifically because they knew he was an energy guy. Because when he was playing with Cleveland, they were god awful, and Bill Laimbeer was diving on the floor for loose balls. Also,
True.
Bill Laimbeer, the first stretch five in NBA history.
I agree with you, but you're talking about a guy that probably had of course, him and I didn't get along anyways, and I had Dennis Rodman helping me out. I'll never forget the confrontation I had with Bill Laimbeer in the Boston Garden.
He was a dick.
He was a
say
jerk.
Dick on this show, right? I just did. He was a dick. My buddy, so I got to tell you this story. I'm at the Boston Garden. I like all these Boston Garden stories, okay? I'm telling you what the Pistons.
Love them.
Good stuff. So anyways, I'm in there, and Bill Laimbeer, what an antagonistic, thank God it's not FCC, or I could find big time here. So I said, let me tell you something, Bill. Get out of my way. I'm trying to talk to Dennis to get some work done. And Dennis said, just because you can make your car payment doesn't mean I can make mine. I got a job to do. That's what I told the guy. And said, Bill, get out of here. He's my friend. I'm going to help him out and talk to him. And Dennis and I had a great relationship. Bill Laimbeer went to the other side of the locker room. That was it. Dennis and I did what we had to do. And then he's asking me what happened to my ankle. Well, what went up doesn't go down so easy on Magic Mountain. I got busted up, on my last run of skiing on Christmas Day. So, but Dennis Rodman and I were good friends. But I guess to answer your question, Jacob, a lot of people didn't think a whole lot of Bill Laimbeer's playing a Bill, even though Trader Jack did. But then all of a sudden we saw how great a player he turned out to be.
Do you still talk to Rodman to this day, or is it?
What's that?
How
he's too busy. He's too busy talking to people in North Korea. Rodman is
pretty much, yeah. Well, here if you think about it though, Dennis Rodman was a second round pick that nobody had heard of. I think Southeast Oklahoma, and here's a guy that ended up finding a little school. And how did that turn out? All he did was win 5 championships. So maybe that falls into the parameters of your question too. You think about it. Nobody had ever heard of him, but all of a sudden, how did Dennis do? He's in Springfield, Ohio Springfield, Massachusetts as a member of the Basketball Hall of Fame. So give me about 5 or 6. Pick the best one of the group, and I'll go ahead along with it.
Very cool.
I wish the Basketball Hall of Fame wasn't so far away. I would really like to go there someday, but it's like
Dom,
I got to go all the way.
I've been there. It's
awesome. Really?
I was in the old building in Springfield, not the new one. I was in, and I just recently came from
the new one's terrible.
Yeah, I went to the old one though many years ago. It was pretty cool. I enjoyed it.
Okay, Dom, what's our next topic?
Well, the Los Angeles Lakers have recently acquired Pat Beverly, and they have unsuccessfully been able to jettison Russell Westbrook, so they are now teammates. So the topic at hand is, how will Patrick Beverly and Russell Westbrook coexist, or will they ever? I've always been a big Patrick Beverly guy. The dude's all heart. He's an absolute, I don't even want to say it because it's kind of disrespectful to Gary Payton, but he's glove-esque in the way that he plays defense. Doesn't offer a lot on the offensive end, but I would take Patrick Beverly on my team as a backup point guard right now. As far as how does he coexist with Russell Westbrook, I'm not entirely sure that it's necessarily a big deal. I mean, that's LeBron's team. They're going to follow his. Well, I mean, he's not much of a leader, but they're going to follow his lead. I mean, if Patrick Beverly wants to climb into Russell Westbrook's hind parts and tell him to hustle a little bit more on the defensive end, that would be great. I don't see Russell Westbrook doing that. I've never known of Russell Westbrook to listen to anyone about anything like, start making more free throws, stop taking jumpers, quit running down the court, mashing the turbo button like a 5-year-old trying to play NBA Live on PS2. I honestly, I don't see it being an issue of, Pat Bev's a big personality. Westbrook kind of is on the court, but he's obviously on the decline. I think LA figures out a way somehow, some way. I don't know how, but they're going to going to get rid of Russell Westbrook. I think at some point they're just going to cut him and ask for the amnesty. They already tried to trade him for John Wall. I don't even know where John Wall is now, but whatever team.
Well, he's with the Clippers.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he's with the Clippers.
Whoever he was with previously, the Lakers called him up and they're like, "Will you take Westbrook for John Wall? Because it's the only salary that matches with Westbrook." And they were like, "No, we don't want Westbrook." That's when Wall was still on the Rockets, and they were like, "No, we don't want Westbrook. We already got rid of him once. We're not taking him back." Jacob, what do you got?
Here's the issue. It would be so much easier if LeBron had balls. He doesn't. He would. If he would have a lick of any type of testosterone whatsoever, that situation would be handled. Instead, it's going to simmer and simmer and simmer and simmer and simmer. And then if he doesn't want Beverly, he's not going to go up to Beverly. Beverly's already said it's his team just being a showman. And, of course, he'll do nothing. And then what he'll do is he'll go to the owner because LeBron will go to the owner because he won't even go to the coach. He'll go to the owner because he thinks he's an NBA owner already. He'll go to that and say, "I don't want this anymore." And it's like blah, blah, blah. He's not going to take charge of it like a leader should. So it's going to simmer and simmer and simmer like crazy. Meanwhile, it's going to be a 500 team. And meanwhile, one person's going out, and it's going to be Westbrook.
Okay.
So I'll go real fast so we can get to our last topic before the show ends. I agree with Tom. At first, I was like, no way they're coexisting because their history with their beef. But if Westbrook does his thing, which I agree, I think he needs to be cut. If Westbrook does his thing offensively or tries to, that with LeBron, fine. Pat Bev's a defender. He could get his occasional points, but he's known as a defender, so they're going to play their own games as they know how to. And, I honestly, if someone said, who would you rather have on a team right now, Westbrook or Beverly, I'd take Beverly in a heartbeat.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. You ready for this? I think this situation will be fine. And I'll tell you why. Number one, here's what I think. Okay. I think it will. Number one, LeBron, what did he win? 33 games last year. Okay. 33 and 49. Guess what? The Lakers weren't very good. Of course, Anthony Davis, deserves a part in Korea, being a part of a MASH unit, because that's really what he was. Okay. and if anybody that's a professional player, once you're teammates, you put your past behind you, work together, and you let the coaching staff. I've seen so many malcontents, or guys that didn't get along, turn out really well when they were teammates. I mean, it's all part of the heat of the battle. It really is. And remember, what are you going to do? Get rid of a serviceable player, Westbrook? They had one bad year, just one with the Lakers, and see if you can fix the guy. First of all, you couldn't trade him. And here's the other thing. He's going to become a free agent. You're going to get rid of him. So get as much mileage out of you can. And if Patrick Beverly can light a fire under his you-know-what, let him do it. Right now, they were a 33-win team, They got a championship-winning coach for Darvin Ham. And hear me out, You know where I think Russell Westbrook will end up finishing his career? I'm going to go out on a limb on this show. You ready? I wouldn't be surprised to see him in Oklahoma City, where he's liked over there.
What do you think of the idea of Darvin Ham as coach, though?
Pardon me?
What do you think of the idea of Darvin Ham?
I like him. He number one, he was around the Pistons teams many years ago, so he knows what it's like to win. And he was around a good culture with Milwaukee. Why not? I think he's the type of – you want a guy that's a hard-nosed personality that checks his ego at the door and tries to build his players up. Frank Vogel was in a bad situation there, and I think Frank will eventually get landed somewhere else. He was in a no-win situation, winning a championship – obviously, and then you got LeBron James as a general manager, what Pat Riley said.
I was going to say, anytime you've got LeBron James on your roster and you're the coach, you're in a bad situation.
Yeah, because all of a sudden he's telling you what to do. But the bottom line is I know my opinion's different. I think Patrick Beverly and Russell Westbrook will be fine. They will put their past disputes together, okay, and they're going to work together, and the team will be better. But I still think Westbrook will be gone. The only reason why you don't trade Westbrook is everybody wanted the Lakers to give up draft compensation to get rid of him. That's so stupid because I remember when the Pistons brought in a couple of high-priced free agents. I think one of them was to Charlotte, and you're giving away draft capital just to get rid of a guy. That's stupid. You don't give up draft capital for the sake of getting rid of them. Bite the bullet, deal with it for a year, and move on to the next year. You don't want to mortgage your future and bite your tongue. So I think this will be better than you guys think it will. That's what I think. Can't trade him. If you can't trade him, you might as well use him. You're paying him $47 million for Christ's sake. You never damn point out of him for $47 million. Because the one thing is about this is Latrell Sprewell couldn't feed his family, but I can guarantee you one thing: Russell Westbrook can.
I'll go real quick. I agree with what you said, Scott. I think I can definitely see Beverly in practice going up against Westbrook in it, like team against team practice, and starting a little spark or a fire under Westbrook and getting in his head and say, hey, you're better than this. You're better than this. You're better than this.
Well, again, remember, Patrick Beverly gave Stephen Smith a run for his money on First Take. I followed the guy. I loved everything he was on. He took Minnesota to the playoffs. Come on, give him that.
Oh,
now,
yeah,
Minnesota
I remember that.
So if you can go head to toe with Stephen A. Smith and tell him that, you're wrong, and I'm playing the game in the NBA, not over at some college in North Carolina, wherever he was, in HBCU, then in my opinion, I think he's going to get a lot more out of.
Come on. I mean, it's not hard to actually beat Stephen A. Smith. You just have to out yell him. I mean, he doesn't have a lot. The guy just said this weekend that that the Chargers would have the most points but still lose.
Did you hear what he said a few weeks ago? And I was talking to Dom on this on the Gauntlet. He said that the Cowboys him and Michael Irvin can't shut up. Michael Irvin said, "Oh, the Cowboys can be better than the 72 Dolphins." You're kidding, right?
Well, and then of course, because he did that to get on Stephen A. And then what?
I'll tell you what.
I think Michael Irvin's back up to his old tricks.
I will clean Stephen A.
If you know what I'm saying.
This is what Stephen A. would say about that. Michael Irvin, I'm going to tell you why that's so stupid. And I'll tell you exactly why. Then it's like, you say that the Dallas Cowboys are going to be the Dolphins? 72. Really? Undefeated. 72 Dolphins. No. And I already hate Cowboys even more than I already did. I hate Cowboys fans. That would just make them worse. It will not happen. It will not happen.
I'll tell you what.
That was a pretty good Stephen A. impersonation.
I'll tell you right now. I will take Stephen A. Smith out all day tomorrow. You know why? I'll out yell him. I'll outthink him, and I'll have more knowledge than that guy.
Well, it's not hard to do that. If that guy
wants to challenge me, go for it.
It's not hard to outthink him.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure you forgot more about sports than Stephen A. ever knew. Scott.
I know that. I was raised in Detroit.
Stephen A. does like 72 shows for 12 million a year. He doesn't remember anything he says in the first place, and he forgets everything. So it's not going to be hard to beat him.
This is the same man that called Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace, but called Dwayne Haskins a mobile quarterback. Dwayne Haskins was a statue.
Yes.
He made Scott Mitchell look mobile.
I've got enough confidence to beat Stephen A. Smith. I don't care, Jacob. That's all.
So do we have time for our last topic, Dom?
I didn't even know that we had one. Let's just do our shout outs and get out of here. We all want to watch football, I'm sure, as do our viewers. Yeah. Scott, where can we find you?
All right. Subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. That's South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. No cost to subscribe. Twitter @Tribune South. That's good enough. Or www.southfloridatribune.com. You can find it all there. Thank you very much for having me on the show. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for coming on. Jacob.
We were happy to have you, man.
Thank you.
Well, right now, lots going on. Monday nights during the season, NBA Carousel. Tuesday nights for the next couple of weeks will be the Confidential. Then that'll be over with for the year. Wednesday nights, the new world is the Pundit's Pundit. Thanks with Scott. With Jay, with Jen, with all those. And right then and there. And then Thursday nights, I do a show off of Sideline Sports called Yin and Yang with TJ Sampson. And then And then what I will be doing over this coming weekend coming up, I will be in Des Moines, Iowa, for with the Iowa Cubs, the deal with Sideline Sports. So I'll be.
You're going to that? That's awesome.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
And
So
Jacob,
you have
don't
credentials to meet,
and
talk to the
Jacob, don't forget
players,
you're on the Sports Exchange after Pundits Month,
And
man.
that is true. That's true. Thank you. This is my second week, so I forget. So I am on the Sports Exchange after that. And then this right here. So I stay pretty busy right now.
Do you get to talk to the players for the Iowa Cubs?
The what? No. JB did. JB did all the work on that. But
what do you get for credentials?
You have to talk to him. I'm not sure. He just told
awesome.
me we get that. But anyway, we have, and then I am also working on a movie with TJ Sanson. We are doing. It's called The Awakening. So a lot of things going on in my life.
Well, so I'll go real quick. Scott, loved having you. I've heard you speak plenty of times before. I guarantee we'll have you back again soon. Hopefully with Jay next time.
Thank you.
Full cast. You guys can find me Monday nights during the season on the NBA Carousel. Thursday nights, this sip-off hosted by Mega Pros John Phillips. Saturday, I am filling in as a temporary horseman. You heard that correct. A temporary horseman for the gauntlet. And then Sunday.
Are you Chris Benoit or Mongo McMichael?
Well, if he's Mongo McMichael,
don't say Chris Benoit. He killed his wife and children.
Hey,
say Mongo.
Don't say
question.
Mongo McMichael. He weighs about 100 pounds now.
Hey, Will, by the way, you're welcome on any of my shows as well, just so you know.
Yeah, just hit me up. I'll have Jen give you my info. And then Sunday here. Dom, go ahead.
Sorry, just responding to a text from our lovely producer. I'll go last, and then we got one more thing after that. Let's see. Mondays is the NBA Carousel. You will also see me tomorrow night in the 8 p.m. hour on Scott's show, Fire Up Michigan. Wednesdays and Fridays at 8 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook Live, Kneecap Biting with Smoke and Jeremy B. Wednesdays is the NFL Roundtable. Fridays is the Lions Man Cave. Saturdays at 8, that's one quarter my show, The Gauntlet, hosted by myself. Denzel Snipes, a.k.a. Jay Nelson. JJ Jenkins. We have Will on all the time as well. And then Sundays at 8, obviously UCS, we're here. And before we go, just wanted to have a moment of silence in remembrance of our fallen soldiers, first responders and such, 9/11. All right. This was Basketbros. We're on I forget how the guy does it on TV.
Tony, are you pulling a Tony Reale?
I was trying to, but I couldn't do the math on 7 days and 23 hours. We're on a 6-day break. We will see you next Sunday at 8. This has been Basketbros.
Yeah.